Knowledge Series. Today is email marketing with MailChimp, and our presenter is Jeremy Weiss, who is the owner of Those Geeks Web Development. We thank you for coming, and we are really excited to see that the faces, we're getting more faces and new faces, and that's good. So tell your friends, and you know, as Bob Porterfield says, if you like us, talk about it. So with that being said, I'm going to introduce Jeremy Weiss, but first, one thing I'd like to ask everybody to do is turn their telephones off, if they will. And the other thing, while you're doing that, is that I would like for everybody to go around the room and introduce yourselves. So we'll start here.
Why don't you start?
I'm Kathy Lowe. I'm the Executive Director of Virginia Highlands Small Business Incubator. And this is...
Oh, I'm Sandy Ratliff. I'm with the Department of Small Business and Supplier Diversity, and we're in partnership along with the Chamber on this new knowledge series, so hopefully you'll continue joining us every Wednesday here, because we got a lot of stuff, and we want to hear from you if there's other workshops you want us to do.
And the other partner is...
I'm Nita Farmer, and I'm with the Washington County Chamber of Commerce, and we're here to serve you. If you find anything that we can help you with, or other seminars, please let us know.
And the administrative person here at Virginia Highlands Small Business Incubator is...
Jennifer Davis.
Now, we'll start with...
I'm Susan Howard, I'm Director of Avenue Ministry.
Sharon Stevens, Office Manager at Countryside Realty.
Angela Anderson, broker owner, Countryside Realty. Wendy Thomas, Marketing Director of Outface here in Abingdon.
I'm Dave Baldwin, I'm the Director of the Housing Authority in Bristol, Virginia.
Natasha Snyder, I work for People Incorporated Financial Services Department.
Cindy Green, I'm the Senior Business Trainer for People Incorporated and our Financial Services Department. We have small business loans for anyone that's looking to start up or expand a business.
I'm Amy Looney, I'm the coordinator for the historic properties for the town of Abingdon.
Allison Mays with Barter Theater.
I'm Ryan Rhoda with Barter Theater, and just a quick plug, Road to Appomattox opened recently, and Anything Goes is about to open, so come see a show.
Jan Coleman, People Incorporated Financial Services. My name's Cindy Brewer. We have an in-home assistance business. Rebecca Hubbard, Small Business Wannabe.
Dave McLeish, Streamland Alpacas, Malibu, Virginia.
I'm Eric Miller, the Director of Marketing of Grace Healthcare of Abington.
Valerie Caudell, Small Business Wannabe too.
Rachel Denham, I'm a volunteer for the Town Square Center for the Arts in Glade Spring.
Wow.
David Dawson with Advantage Partnership, provide consulting support for technical, regulatory, and management issues.
I'm Deborah McCroskey, and I'm with the Advertising Department, Major Accounts from the Bristol Herald Courier.
Thanks for being a sponsor for us, too.
Yeah.
I'm Sonia Van Hook. I teach the next generation of entrepreneurs, so I'm here to be sure I'm not leading them astray. And also a partner in a small business. My husband says not a silent partner.
I'm Susan Walling, the owner of Driver Training Incorporated in Bristol, Virginia, and Kingsport, Tennessee.
I'm Sarah Burgess, I'm the Social Media Director at Driver Training Inc.
Great.
I'm Linda Austin. I'm the Executive Director of Hands and Feet Ministries. We're a general prison ministry based in Damascus.
Audrey Wells, and I'm with the county's Economic Development Department.
And I'm Kay Stout, and I'm with DePaul Community Resources in Northeast State.
And we are really excited to see all of our attendees today. We're starting to get really good feedback from you all, and we'll be planning we hope that the new knowledge series continues. We will be planning that again, so please fill out your surveys and let us know topics that you're interested in or that would be of help to your business and your organization. If you will do us one favor, because the classroom is growing, if you will kind of write your questions down and maybe save them until after Jeremy has made his presentation, it might make it a little more efficient, because if he stops, if he answers too many questions, you can't get through the whole presentation. So if you'll write your questions down, we'll give you an opportunity at the end for a question and answer. And Our two new people that just walked in are Derek and Rebecca Pepin with Fetching Apparel, and they are tenants inside the Incubator. And of course, we all recognize Rebecca from Fox News. So thank you for coming, and I'm going to turn it over to Jeremy.
Well, thank you. Let me pre-apologize if I start hacking, I'm getting over the plague. Well, welcome to Mastering MailChimp. After I've reread my subtitle, I realized it's kind of stupid, so I'm not even say it. So, just another little preface, even though this is called MailChimp, just about everything that I'll be talking about today applies to every other email marketing service out there. So if you use Constant Contact or iContact or any of the other ones, most of this stuff still applies, so just sort of keep that in mind. MailChimp just happens to be one of the most popular ones. It's US based, which is nice, and they have a pretty sweet free plan available at the moment. So let's get going. As Kathy said, my name's Jeremy Bice. I'm co-founder of Those Geeks. We're a website development and design company based here in Abingdon, but really I work from home mostly. I'm also chairman of the American Advertising Federation of Southwest Virginia and the Virginia governor for AAF District 3. I heard a lot of marketing directors in here. I'd love to talk to you about that after the presentation, if you don't mind. So come say hi. All right, so I know Kathy said we wait for questions at the end. Does anybody have a question before we get going? All right, here we go. That's what we're going to talk about. First and foremost, we're going to talk about email marketing and the law, because there are laws related to this, and it's important to know those before you even get started. We're going to talk a little bit about getting started with MailChimp, and we'll go over some of the user interface and how to navigate it. Again, most of the stuff you see in there will still apply to other email marketing platforms. Everybody able to hear me okay? Okay. We'll talk a bit about list management, because without a list, you have nobody to email, so that's probably one of the most important parts of the equation. We'll talk about the kinds of campaigns that are available and exactly what campaign means. There are more than just the plain ones that you guys have probably mostly seen. So we'll get into some of the more advanced, interesting ones. Talk a little bit about design and content considerations. And then reporting, because everybody likes to look at the numbers and pretty pie charts to show the fruits of your efforts. All right, so email marketing and the law. Does anybody want to take a stab real quick at what exactly what the law may be with regard to sending people bulk email?
Does it have anything to do with spam?
Mm-hmm.
That's all I know.
They need to opt into the program.
Yes, ma'am. That's key. That's number one. I know you guys don't want to hear me groan the entire time, so I'll try to ask a little bit. So yes, there are federal regulations regarding email marketing. The name of the act that sort of deals with all this is actually called CAN-SPAM. So that's something that you can look up a little bit later if you want to see all the nitty-gritty, but I'm going to give you the highlights. Keep in mind, if you do not adhere to these rules, your account will get suspended by MailChimp, Constant Contact, or any of the other ones. And also keep in mind that if you get banned at, say, MailChimp and then try to go over to Constant Contact, that may not very well work. So make sure you adhere to this stuff. If you continue to fail to adhere to the rules, you may get fined. That's built into the act. So don't let this scare you. Complying is actually very easy. You just need to make sure you do it. All right, so if you do have questions, MailChimp and any of these other email marketing platforms do have compliance teams, and they're not there just to get you in trouble. You can actually ask them questions. So if you go to the compliance page on the MailChimp site, there's an email address there you can call, and you don't call an email address. You can email and ask whatever questions you have. So here are the rules. Your list must be opt-in. In other words, they must actually sign up. What that means is you can't just take a list of emails that somebody gave you and add them to your list of MailChimp. It's against the law. There actually has to be a sign-up mechanism. Make sure that the intent of the sign-up form is clearly stated. I don't know how many times I've filled out a form on some website that says, fill this form out, we'll give you this free download with all sorts of great information. They never said that I would get email blasted after that. That's technically against the law. You need to make it clear on that sign-up form that you will receive email. Simple. You don't have to be deceptive about it. Most of the times, especially when you're giving away something for free, that they sort of understand that they gotta give a little to receive a little. So that's not unfair to ask. Makes sense? Verbal sign-ups are generally not acceptable. While yes, you can take a verbal sign-up, if it ever comes down to it and you are questioned by the compliance team or by the law, that physical sign-up sheet is kind of important. So you really wanna have that. Third-party lists are not permissible, and that's gonna apply to every single one of these email marketing platforms. Yes, you can go out there and buy leads. There are plenty of companies that offer leads for sale. But with these email marketing platforms, you can't use them. They didn't sign up to hear from you. It's against the law. It is generally okay to add existing customers, but they really need to have done business with you within the past 6 months, and even then, they should have requested emails from you. Whether that's part of the sign-up process when they buy a product from you or a service from you, there should be a checkbox on there that says whether or not they want to receive email from you. It's simple. It's just a matter of getting all the right pieces in place to ask for that permission. And we'll go over some ideas here in a minute. So let's talk about, I'm just gonna go ahead and inject, because I'm blowing right through this. If you have a question, just go ahead and ask. Fair enough? Any questions about the rules?
When you say they have to opt in, does that mean by signing on these documents, or does it mean there has to be a document that specifically says we are gonna add you to our MailChimp account or something?
Do your documents say, check this box to receive email from us?
It will next week.
There you go. And I'll show you an example of something we used for the AF group a little later on. We had a sign-in sheet too. There's the very last column on there says, do you want to receive email from us? 9 times out of 10, they circle yes. It's not hard to do. Yes?
If you email someone, is it okay for them to share that email with someone else?
Mm-hmm. That's a one-on-one interaction there. That doesn't fall within the spam rules.
What's the penalty?
I haven't looked that up to really tell you what the penalty is, but I know there are fines. I know each of us get tons of emails every day, and we wonder how in the crap that some of these people that send us stuff haven't got fines. But you can. Okay, so let's talk about getting started with MailChimp. Naturally, it's MailChimp.com. How many of you in here actually already use it? That's cool. Any that use something different? What do you use?
Constant Contact.
Okay. It's another big name of the company. It's actually been around longer than that. You?
My fingers, I
Your fingers?
manually enter everybody that's sending an email to.
And you do mass emails that way? Let me give you the other part of the law. It's not in this presentation because we're assuming that you're gonna use MailChimp. The other tidbit of the law is, if you're gonna, it's perfectly acceptable to manually email people, to create a list in Outlook and go that route. But if you're gonna do mass emails, there has to be you have to say who you are. There has to be an address and a phone number on there. There has to be a notation on there giving them instructions for how to unsubscribe from the list. That could be as simple as saying, email me back with remove in the subject line to be removed. You then have 5 days to get them off that list. Now, the reason I don't have that in the slide deck is because MailChimp takes care of those 2 requirements for you. Every email that goes out has an unsubscribe link on it, and it makes you put your address or phone number in the footer. Does that make sense?
So you don't have to manually remove it, MailChimp does it for you.
MailChimp will do it for you because there's a link in there that says unsubscribe. They click it, they're off the list.
Now typically when they sign up for this, I mean, I've been capturing email addresses for 6 years from all my students, and I haven't felt the need to have to market to them again, because once they learn to drive, I don't see them again, unless they get a ticket, you know. You know, so I have all this resource, I just don't know what to do with it. In my case, in my business, you know, so I'm just curious. But what if they fill out a large registration form for me, what if I had that checked already when they hit submit and they don't even see it?
That's acceptable. I would
Okay.
venture to say that some people would find that deceptive. I mean, I've seen those ones that have it checked by default. Sometimes I'm like, that's okay, and then other times, depending on who it is, I'm like, oh. I mean, just sort of keep in mind the image of that.
Yeah.
Don't make it look like you're trying to sneak it by, because that, it could be that way. I'm personally a fan of leaving the box unchecked and letting them make the decision.
Well, it's not that I wanna send them anything, it's just that I wanna capture their email. I mean, I've got it all on WordPress right now, so.
Understand?
Jeremy, we have a question from someone that's viewing. What does most people use when they're doing newsletters? How are you doing your newsletters when you send out? I guess who does newsletters? And are you using a service?
Question is, who sends out periodic newsletters?
For the farmer's market, we use MailChimp.
Okay.
That's our weekly newsletter we send out.
The Chamber of
That's the other
Commerce
side of
we
it.
use MailChimp.
What was the name of that other one?
Constant contact.
Constant Contact. United Way uses Constant Contact.
But the chamber uses MailChimp, correct? Anybody
It's
else?
free.
Abington makes me use MailChimp, but now I still use Outlook for my merchant list. I have a list of merchants I communicate on a regular basis.
We'll talk a little bit about design considerations a little later, because I've seen some pretty rough email newsletters. We'll talk about it. All right, so let's jump back in here. Obviously, we're going to MailChimp.com. One of the things that makes MailChimp most appealing, especially to small businesses and small chambers, is the fact that they have a free plan. And their free plan is actually very good. You can send up to 12,000 emails a month to up to 2,000 people for free. The only caveat is they stick this little monkey badge thing in the footer. And that's not really that bad of a deal. Now, they do have paid plans, which are very reasonable, which will allow you to get rid of the monkey badge. And it also enables some pretty nifty additional reporting. For instance, it will start tracking social shares and things like that to add another few dimensions to the reporting, which is actually very nice in some e-commerce situations, just figuring out where all this attribution happens between sales and where they came from. Yes.
And you can decide to add that per campaign. You don't have to pay for it all at once. I want to be on this upgraded plan. You can do it per campaign, right?
They may have an option for that. The only one that I particularly, we can look in a second, is monthly. Like, I think it starts out maybe $15 a month.
Oh, okay. So once you click it, they say, here's what you're gonna need to sign up for. Because I see this is a paid thing, so I thought it was like a one-time.
No.
Okay,
It's just a monthly plan,
okay,
and they give you more goodies, of course, for that.
okay.
So we'll look at that page in just a minute. So let's take a brief walkthrough of sort of the MailChimp interface for some of those who may not have seen it. I mean, there are a lot of, I've heard some business wannabes in here, so you may not have looked at it yet. So let's take a look. So this is the MailChimp website, which is pretty good. It gives you a nice overview here of what the interface looks like. They have this nice new drag and drop builder we'll look at here in just a minute. Let's look at the pricing real quick just to get that out of the way. So the entrepreneur plan, that's the free one for up to 2,000 subscribers. Let's take a look at the growing business. So looks like it actually starts out $10 a month. It just sort of goes on up from there.
Jerry, is that in addition to the 2003?
No, this would be a cumulative total.
Well,
So
'cause
you're going
it
from
says
2,003 down to 500, but you can now send them unlimited emails instead of just 2,000. That's the
So
question.
if you had a list, like I've already got my list at max at 2,000, so now I'm at the point of trying to make a decision, do I wanna go farther? So I'm gonna pay $25 just for that same 2,000 that I
It's just-
have already.
It's a matter of whether the additional features are of value to you, or if you need to grow that list further. If you need to grow that list further, if you got 2,000 people, I think it's, in most cases, it's safe to say you're doing pretty darn good. So they might assume that you have some money to spend. That may or may not be true, but that's probably what their heads are at.
Could you create another email address?
You could, but then you got sort of a management nightmare.
Yeah.
Two separate lists to keep up with in two different accounts. I wouldn't prefer it.
Where does it go past 2,000? Oh, and another plan. Because that was.
Likely. They've changed this page a little bit since
Yeah,
last
they
time we
did.
did it.
Difference, 'cause you used to have a drop down up there.
Mhm.
Oh, high volume, there you go.
Yeah, that's getting way up there. But there
It's got
are,
100,000.
yeah, there are organizations here that have 80,000 people on the list. This is dropping the bucket probably. At any rate, feel free to explore this on your own, see if it's worth it to you. And once you get into the paid plans, again, the big draw to MailChimp is that free plan. Once you get into the paid plans, it may be worthwhile to take a look at some of the other services that are out there. Maybe they have something that matches up to what you want better. Again, all this stuff is applicable to really any email marketing platform. So I'm gonna log in real quick and just give you a very brief overview. Most of the examples I'm gonna show you today are from the American Advertising Federation, just because we do a pretty good amount of email, and I will just say that I can't take credit for most of the creative in here. We have a really good communications chair who's done most of this. Her name's Amber Ambergy. She's awesome. So let's take a look at the dashboard. Just gonna give very slowly. Okay. So this is what a dashboard looks like, and it gives you sort of a brief overview of how your campaigns are going overall. You'll see this last email that we sent had a 23.3% open rate, which is higher than the industry average for a nonprofit, but a little lower than our list average of 30%, which is way above the industry average. These stats are good to know, gives you some benchmarks and some things to shoot for. But you can go down here and take a look at the list growth, and currently I have an email marketing presentation to give. And just sort of goes down. Now, since my screen is sort of low resolution right now for the projector, most of the options are hidden. Over here, if you're looking at this on a higher resolution display, this stuff will be across the top. This is how you get to your campaigns, your templates, your lists, your reports, and some automation type stuff. Just gonna quickly go in here, campaigns. We're gonna talk about it in a minute, but that's another word for email. I don't know why, I mean, I do know why, but a campaign is an email that goes out. And here's just sort of an overview of all the campaigns we've sent and where click-throughs and who all went to look. This button up here is where we'll wind up going to create a new campaign. We'll go over that shortly. Templates are where you can save designs. We'll talk about that more in a little bit as well. This is a very important section because this is where your lists and segmentation happens. We had a business etiquette class. They wanted a presentation, so we created a list for them. Take a look at the open percentage and click-through rate of that one. That's really good because it's very, very targeted information. We've got a couple lists here we're not even using, but when we get down to the master list, this is where we've got 106 people in it. It's not that big of a list, but again, this is my example for today. And you can create a new list. Again, we're going to talk about this more in a minute. I'm just trying to give you an overview of how the interface works. And then reports. This is probably my favorite section of MailChimp. Let's just go through here and take a look at the reports for any campaign that we've sent. Just, for example, our first Addy Blast, which Addies are the American Advertising Awards, where we award creativity each year, and that gave us at the end of the month, so this is the first email blast we did about it. Had a pretty good open rate of almost 40%, which again, we're really proud that that's above the industry average of 21.
What's the difference between a click and an open rate?
A click on what?
Click and open.
Okay. We'll talk about it more in a minute, but just an open means somebody said, all right, I got this email, I actually opened it up, take a look at it. That's an open. A click means they clicked something within your email. We're going to talk a bit about calls to action shortly because emails are sort of useless without some sort of a call to action. And that's really what drives your click-through rate. So you want opens, but then you want clicks. You want something to happen as a result of the email you sent, right? So that's really what those metrics are for. And we got the bounces. We don't want any bounces. We'll talk about that in a minute. 2 unsubscribed. That sucks. But it happens. So, and again, with the paid, this is the free version of MailChimp. With the paid one, there are some more layers on top of all this reporting, which may be useful. So that's just a quick overview of reports. We'll get into some more shortly. And then automation, we're not really gonna talk too much about today, except very briefly at the end, because it's probably just brain overload. Fair enough? Questions at this point?
Yes.
Yes.
In the emails, are they able to put a link to their URL?
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's
So
all.
does it monitor the click-through rate?
Any link that you insert, yes, you'll tie it to whatever URL you want it to. MailChimp's gonna rewrite that to go through them first. It's all invisible, really. You'll see it very quickly show a MailChimp URL and then bounce to your URL, but so they can track that and give you these reports. Yes?
I'm not a tech-savvy person, so my question is, I'm Angela Anderson. I own a real estate office. I do demolition derby and horse show.
Mm-hmm.
So you said don't do more than one sign-up, just use one email account.
You've got 3 organizations, do 3 different accounts.
Okay,
But let's not take one organization and sign up for 2 accounts for that one organization.
okay, because my question was gonna be just sign up as one organization and have each as, I think it was, campaign, and have Derby as a campaign, horse show as a campaign, real estate as a campaign, something.
You could do that. When you manage them both, or do you ever have different people coming into different
Most of the
ones?
time it's me, and I use my office email address.
I would still probably set up 3 accounts with 3 different organizations, just to keep clear separation between that. Because it would really be bad if you were sending something out about demolition derby and accidentally selected the list for dentistry.
Okay,
It could happen.
okay.
Demolish your teeth. But yeah, you see what I'm saying, though, that could be bad. I would keep them separated. But I would not sign up for 2 accounts for one organization just to circumvent the list limit. That would be a management nightmare. Speaking of which, let's talk about list management. Good lists are the key to good email marketing. And the more targeted your list is, the more interested people are going to be in opening and clicking your messages, and that ties directly to what we just looked at in those reports, opens and clicks. If they're not interested in your email, which technically they should be because they signed up for it, right? Right? You're gonna find that if they actually did opt into it, these numbers are all gonna be much higher, and they're gonna be the right people, and you're gonna have less fat on that list. And I'll tell you here in just a minute what I've seen some companies do, which I think is kind of scary but cool, and that's completely deleting their list and starting from scratch, just to get it targeted. I've seen companies do that. But anyway, the more targeted, the better. If they signed up, it will be targeted. MailChimp makes it pretty easy to create your list, which we'll talk about in a minute. It's not easy to build a good list, but here are a few ideas, some of which we've already talked about. Let's go over them again. Naturally, we want to create some digital sign-up forms, right? If we go into the list section of MailChimp and under sign-up forms for a particular list, I don't know whether you see that, but you got general forms. These are things, this actually creates a small little tiny microsite. The Pepins are looking confused. What's that?
I just don't see well, I'm squinting.
Oh, sorry. That'll create you a little site that you can link to for people to say, go here, sign up for my email. Embedded forms, these are the forms that you see on a lot of websites, where you go to a page, it says sign up for email, and the form's embedded right there in the website. That section will give you the code to do that. Rebecca, you've got a widget in WordPress which does it already, so that's actually under the very bottom, under form integrations.
And Jeremy knows this because he created our website and it looks awesome. If anyone needs a website designed, I recommend him.
So, and again, that form integrations at the bottom is kind of important, because if you're already using a content management system like WordPress or Drupal or any of those, there's already plugins which create a MailChimp form for you. So that's worth knowing. Create some analog sign-up forms. That's a cool word, right? Analog. This is a stripped-down version of the sign-in form that we use for the AAF events that we have: name, company, phone, email address, and then you see the last column. Sign up for email, circle yes or no. And again, most people circle yes. So it's not hard, and that's something that you can do with these feedback forms that you've got, Kathy. So, yes, ma'am.
Question. You can upload your list from Eventbrite, because we use Eventbrite. Do you know if there's an opt-in on Eventbrite? because they register with their email. Do you know, and maybe something we should.
I don't think it's built in. I know that you can go in and customize the Eventbrite form to include an additional checkbox. Another thing that Eventbrite does, which is sort of nice, is it has an integration with MailChimp that lets you take your event and send the invites through MailChimp to any list you've got.
Okay.
So you can take a look at that when you go to, after you've created the event, there's a invite section over there on the left you've probably seen.
Right.
There's a MailChimp button in there that will let you send from Eventbrite to your MailChimp list.
Okay. I'm sending them through Eventbrite now, and then I like the fact that they make it super easy to build your list from either an Excel or from Eventbrite.
And Eventbrite, for those who may not know, is really nice event registration software. We use it too.
As long as you don't charge for your event, it's free.
I like charging for events. So. Yes, ma'am.
Is it event BRITE or BRIGHT?
BRI.
If you get a list and you manually enter it, and you either make a mistake or someone has given you the wrong email address, does MailChimp automatically stop delivering to the ones that keep returning? Okay, because I noticed we didn't get.
That's the bounced section that you see in there.
Yeah.
If the mail's bounced, they'll generally try it a couple times and then they'll remove it
Trash.
from the list.
Okay.
I think they email you if that happens.
I know they email you on unsubscribe, so I don't think it bounces. So, figure out how to build some analog sign-in forms into some of the things that you do, because they work. Just keep them on file in case you're ever asked, how do these people sign up?
How long would you have to keep that on file?
I don't know that there is a rule about that. I'd keep it for at least a year or two. So come after that, and ask a question. Or you can do like I do, and take a picture of the sheet and store it electronically. All right, MailChimp also has a pretty nifty iPad app. Actually, they have it for Android now too, which lets you create this nice little branded sign-up thing that you can pass around the room if you trust strangers with your iPad. But it does let you upload your logo and puts all the information right there so they can click the sign-up button. And it's all digital and that's recorded within MailChimp, so you don't have to the analog sign-up for it. This would be really cool for kiosks and stuff too, in physical locations, I think. So that's available. And then also they have a Facebook app. This is the AAF Facebook page, and you'll notice right here we've got a sign up for email tab. And right there's the URL. It should be on your slides for getting that app so you can install it on your own Facebook page. So they just go fill out the form, get sign up done. So
And you do that from the MailChimp site or the Facebook, no, from the Facebook site?
yeah, it's just the Facebook site that takes you to your app and it'll then ask you to log in with your MailChimp credentials.
Now, if I'm logged in on Facebook, how do I get that?
Yeah, if you just manually type in that URL at the top, it'll take you there. Or if you go to the search box and type in MailChimp, there should be a search result that says app.
And then it will add the sign up for email tab, okay.
Yeah. So they give you a lot of ways to help build your lists. And you'll notice that every single one I've shown you are opt-in, totally legal, not totally illegal. Just keep that in mind. Any questions so far? Yes? Okay. So let's take a few minutes to just talk about segments. When you first go to build a MailChimp list, it has some default fields there. First name, last name, email address. You can expand that a little bit if you want to. And say things like, what's your organization? What's your age range? How much money do you spend a year on dog clothes? That kind of thing. MailChimp will record that information too if they filled it out, and will let you build segments. That's like super targeting. Let's say that you really, really want to get specific with your messaging, and you figured out a way that I could send the same campaign out, but let's word it just a little bit differently for people between the ages of 20 and 30 than we do from 40 to 50, because we have that information because we created the field. MailChimp will let you do that.
And that's still available for free.
Mm-hmm. So when you create your list, you're given the option to add additional fields. I just said that. I just said that too. That's powerful. So here's an example of what it looks like when I go to actually send to a segment. And I can go in here and do this in MailChimp as well, but this segment is saying I want to send this to anybody who marked that they're a member of AAF and that they were interested in the American Advertising Awards. That lets me send out very specific information to that group of people. Maybe the other half of the people are not interested in that type of information, but this lets me make it very relevant, and thus it increases those opens and click rates for that campaign. Does that compute? So the caveat here is you don't want to make a sign-up form yay long because nobody's going to fill it out. But if you can get some really relevant information that people wouldn't mind filling out, then segmenting can be very powerful. All right, questions about that? I know constant contact does segments, any of the other ones do too. Just a matter of using them. All right, so campaigns, how are we on time? There.
Oh, you're great.
Oh, there's a clock, I don't know how to read that kind of clock, Kathy. All right, so a campaign is just a fancy way of saying an email in this context. So don't let that word confuse you. But unlike your usual business email where you're going into Gmail and sending it to somebody, or going into Outlook and sending it to somebody, campaigns should have business objectives tied to them. So before you send it, ask yourself why you're sending it. Oh, that went down to the next line. And who's going to give a crap about it? If you can't answer those two questions, you don't need to send the email when we're talking about email marketing. That may be harsh, but it's true. Why you're sending it, and who's going to care. Let's talk about a little bit about content strategy. Why you're sending it. There should at least be one good call to action in the message, otherwise what was the point? And by call to action, I mean, what do you want people to do as a result of reading that email? Do you want them to click this button and go learn more about a product? Do you want them to click this button and go register for an event? Notice I keep saying click a button. It doesn't have to be a button. It could be make a phone call, but MailChimp can't track your phone calls. So there has to be a call to action. If you're just sending out stuff for the sake of sending it out, there wasn't a point. There's nothing you can track. There's no goal to strive for. And what you're sending should be relevant and useful to the parties you're sending to. A, if they opt in, it should be relevant and useful. If you're segmenting, it should be super relevant and useful. But you can also send stuff to really good lists which isn't relevant and useful. I can send out tips to my small business owners about, how they can improve their website, how they can do a little bit better in business. Success-driven campaign. Rebecca, you already got one. How many of you have seen that and wondered what it was? How many of you have a website? Blog is on this website. Okay, just a couple. An RSS-driven campaign takes a look daily at your feed, your blog feed, and it delivers new articles to people who have signed up for that list. So it's an automated campaign.
What's RSS stand for?
Really simple syndication. It sort of lies behind the blog, and it's just a feed of titles and content and links, and that lets people stay up to date on your blog without having to go to your blog. It's actually kind of nice, and it's one way of doing a newsletter. If your site has a blog and you start posting your newsletter pieces to the blog, then your email becomes this nice little summary of headings and links to go read full articles instead of this amalgam of stuff that's hard to format. I would encourage trying it. Let's talk about A/B. In this example, 10% of your list would get one subject line. 10% of your list would get another subject line. The point is you're testing two different subject lines or two different sending times. So the first 10% is the A, the second 10% is the B. Once that first 20% goes out, there's going to be a winner come back. The remaining 80% gets the winner. So this gives you some really nice ways of testing things, and you're going to learn things over time from this, seeing which ones of these variations are the winner. And you're going to send better email as a result of it. So this this is sort of what that interface looks like when you go. You can test 3 things: subject lines, firm names, and delivery dates and times. And the delivery dates and times is actually kind of cool. We did this with AAF event, and I don't remember exactly which date and time it was. I think it was Wednesdays at like 11:30. Wound up being the time that people open our staff. Is it good to know? That same date will not be the same for you guys. You have different people reading the email. But this is what it looks like. I mean, you can actually tweak that 20% a little bit with the slider and test these things. So, does that make sense? Cool.
Does it just do a random sample of 10%?
Yep. All right, we'll talk a little bit about design considerations. Please, for the love of God, stick with just a text color and an accent color. Do not throw 5 different colors at me. Don't give me reds and golds and blues and greens, because you're gonna make my eyes bleed. Just stick to 2 colors, please. Use buttons for your clear calls to action. MailChimp actually has a nice little button widget in there. You can use that nice accent color that you chose to make your buttons so that they're very visible. I say buttons because if you bury your calls to action within paragraph text, they're not very good calls to action because you can't see them that well. But and I'll show you an example of a couple campaigns here in a minute where we started to use the buttons, and that's really where our click-through rate started to increase. So do that. Use excerpts. This really applies mostly to the newsletter people. Rather than having an email 18 miles long, use some excerpts in there. Have a heading of a brief amount of text, and then have that read more button in there. That lets people who, yes, we may be interested in your newsletter, but let me skim it just to see which parts of it are, relevant to me, so that I can get more information on the tidbits that I want. That's courteous, and you'll have better results that way.
And the read more will go to the website,
Mhm.
or the blog, or whatever.
Website, Facebook, whatever.
And you're saying for the text color and accent color, you said for links, but you mean for the whole page, just have one color for the text and one color for everything else?
Text should not be dark black. It should be slightly skewed gray, so that's more legible than dark black. Everybody know that? And then, have one accent color, and likely it'll be a part of your brand. Like people ink, you got some marine going on, that contrasts a little bit with the gray. So have an accent color and make that your call to actions. Yes?
What about a flyer that you've created on pages on the iPad and dropping that in there?
I think I've got a bullet about that here in a minute.
Uh-oh.
Pages, you're rendering out an image, I assume, of your flyer.
Yes.
Not
It's
every.
a really cool looking flyer though.
No doubt. And I've seen good looking flyers. I've seen terrible looking flyers, but I've seen good looking ones. Not every email client in the world opens images by default. I don't know, Outlook's probably one of the longest holding out on that philosophy, but how many in here are Outlook users? Do you get emails and you see these X's in the middle of things? It's because the images were turned off either by the default settings, which I think in most versions of Outlook that is default, or by your IT departments.
Is that where you click on the gray bar at the top and then it'll show you the images?
Yes.
Okay.
Your pretty flyer is not going to show up to everybody all the time, just because the images are turned off. You can hope that they will go up to the gray bar. It doesn't mean they will. So even if you do a flyer, but have a text summary as well for people who have that turned off, so that they can read it without. We're lazy. Everybody's lazy. We don't want to go click more than we have to. So if you're going to use a lot of images, make sure there's some text to go along with it so that the email makes sense without the images. That makes sense?
When you say text, if the text is within the flyer, does it show up? No.
Because you have it's a whole image, so
Yeah.
you need to have text that.
What I would recommend is getting sort of used to MailChimp's drag and drop features if you can, and create your flyer within that. Have a nice header image. If it doesn't show up, it doesn't matter. And then it has columns that you can sort of arrange things to have a mixture of text and images. I would get used to working with that.
It's just easier if you can take what you already
I understand that. Might not be the most effective though.
have. Yeah.
It's the nature of the beast. Does everybody get what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Hey, my last bullet. All right. Let me, see, what time is it? 12:47. I'm gonna go show you this drag and drop builder just a little bit. I'm gonna go over to create campaign. I'm gonna do a regular old campaign. And I'm gonna send it, but not really, to our master email list. Name your campaign. The first, this is just so you know what it is. This is just for class. Good evening. And then the subject line can be different than the name of your campaign. Clear learning MailChimp. And you can go on down here and it's got some additional stuff. What's the email address it's coming from? And the from name. This is also one of the things you could A/B test, actually. There's some research that shows an actual person's name, and the from name has better open rates than an organization. So testing that is worthwhile. And then the different tracking options that you have, a lot of these things are, default. And then you get over here into like e-commerce 360, that's generally a paid feature. And there is Google Analytics, I think, tracking as well. If you want to sort of tie email campaigns into your Google Analytics, you can check that box and all happens like that. Okay, but I'm going to go on down here. You've got some auto post to Facebook options if you've integrated Facebook with MailChimp and blah, 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 blah. Next. Okay, so when we get to the template screen, we have the first tab, which is the drag and drop builder. And you can see they give you some really nice layout starters here. You can certainly take this and have sort of a newsletter format or a flyer format, just using MailChimp. And that's what I would encourage you to do if you can start doing that. Themes are not as drag and drop, but they're very well designed. So you can take a look through those. Saved templates are things that you've already customized but saved. So like we've got an after hours thing that we send out, which is a little different looking than other things. Campaigns, don't remember exactly what that is. I guess it lets us duplicate something we've done before. Or code your own. You actually can hire professionals to code a custom email template for you. If you really want to get super branded on these things, it can be done. It's not my favorite thing to do because it's really nitpicky, but I can do it. Let's go back to this drag and drop builder. Let's take a look at it. I'm just going to briefly go through this. Let's choose this 1 and 3 column. Just for the people who haven't seen MailChimp before.
Jeremy, while that's loading, one of the most important parts of your email campaign is the subject line, because that's going to get whoever views the subject line, that's what's going to make them click to see what's in the content.
I don't have a specific slide for it, probably should have. And I thought about it, and I thought this is going to hit an hour, so we can have a conversation about that here in just a minute, if you want to. This is how this works. I mean, we got this pre-header up here. All you got to do is click on an element, and then it brings up the editor here, so I can change this around. Email marketing is cool. It just changes it right there on the fly for you. If I want to add an image header here, I can do so. I don't know what these images are, if they're all right. So we got a nice header here now. We come in here and click in this main area. We can change this up. Jeremy is an awesome teacher. So forth and so on. And then we're just coming down here and sort of filling in the blanks. Now, I can also expand this and I can drag other elements on here. So I told you needed to use buttons, right? There's a button. Let's add one. Make your purchase. What's this button linked to? Gives you email addresses, files, stuff like that. And I can save, and now I've got this nice button. There's your call to action, which every email should have, right? Yeah. So that's how it works. It's not hard. Yes.
Last one I sent out, I had it go also to Facebook, and I guess I didn't quite upload another image because it just said MailChimp on my Facebook post.
Images, do the images. Facebook, anytime you share on there, if you didn't already know this, they try to find an image. every single time. If it's doing it for you automatic, you don't have the chance to intercept it and say, I don't want an image on here.
Well, I wanted an image from my campaign onto Facebook.
But it didn't add it.
I'm guessing I didn't add it. I'm guessing I didn't find it, I didn't put it in the right place. I just clicked, yeah, put it on Facebook. And then when it went on Facebook, it had my campaign, but the little image was MailChimp.
You fixed that for me on something we did.
Did I?
I think so.
I have no idea what it is.
Because what was happening when I shared on Facebook, yeah, it was showing up. Maybe the MailChimp thing, or it was something really weird. Anyway, I don't remember what we did.
I remember having you fix it for your website. Email me later, we'll see if we can figure it out. I don't have the answer to have.
I bet if you go through and where it says click to Facebook, I bet there should be a spot, right? I just didn't see it.
So what you're saying is that you didn't have a photo on your campaign when you clicked the link to Facebook?
I had a million photos in my campaign, but when I clicked, yeah, send it to Facebook,
So
the
you-
image wasn't from my campaign.
Right.
Yeah, it just said MailChimp.
So what does she need to do there?
I'm gonna have to research that. I'm not sure.
I know if you just copy and paste the link into Facebook post itself, you can scroll through all the images that you have, like the
Yes.
Facebook on there. It will give you the option to scroll through the photos that you have available within that.
That's if you do it
newsletter.
manually or something?
Yeah, I know that works, but I don't know.
If it's, I do know this is a crappy workaround, but it would work if you don't auto-post it to Facebook.
Right.
Yeah, that's what she was saying.
If you don't post it to auto Facebook and you let the email go, and you're on your own email list, I
Yeah.
was saying, there's a view it in your browser button at the top of the
Mhm.
email. If you click that, grab that URL to post to Facebook, it's the manual way to do it, but that would let you choose your photo.
Sure, just a couple extra clicks, that's.
Yes, but I don't have the answer to your question.
Okay.
Would you look?
I stumped you.
You
It's a
did.
shame it wouldn't use a photo from your profile.
For me, it would use the header image if there was a header image.
That would have been nice. Okay, thanks.
Well, it could have been a glitch with Facebook too. I mean, they have them occasionally.
I have them very often.
Yeah, I know. I was being nice.
So, yes, Rebecca, you stunned. She got prize. All right, any questions about how this whole drag and drop thing works?
Describe it.
It's super simple. Just remember the good best practices, calls to action, and all that good stuff. Yes.
A lot of this stuff I have nothing to relate it to. Is there some place I can go to find reasonable definitions to what you've been saying?
It is. Let me show you a section of MailChimp that I like right away. If I go under More on the MailChimp homepage, and then go over here and click Guides,
Okay.
check these little dudes out. Getting started with MailChimp, email marketing field guide, common rookie mistakes. MailChimp for bloggers, how to avoid spam filters. MailChimp for nonprofits. So there's all these are all very well-written guides. You'll get in there and you think, well, Jeremy didn't really research this presentation. He pulled it out of these guides. It's partially true. They're well done. So that's under the More tab and then Guides. All right, and we'll jump back in here real quick. Let's talk about reporting. The most useful stats. Opens, we talked about, this is the number of time your campaign was open. Higher is better. If your stat there is low, that's really tied to the effectiveness of your list to begin with, and your subject line. There are some subject lines you should avoid. Again, I've not got all this crammed in here. Don't put exclamation points in your subject line. Do not do all caps. Those are spam triggers right off the bat. The word free is a spam trigger.
Now, what I've been receiving lately has Chinese font in it. What's that all about? Get a mortgage and then all these Chinese letters and alphabet. When I see that, I'm like, spam.
Yeah, fortunately Gmail has really good spam filters, so I don't see a lot of them. I see the delete button.
Well, don't laugh, but I still have an AOL account.
Probably do, I just don't know what the password is.
What?
I probably do too, I just don't know what the password is. If you go to some of those guides on there, there are some information about subject lines, especially in that mitigating spam one. Again, it probably should have been in here, but this is MailChimp specific, so it's not. All right, clicks. This is the number of times that somebody opened up your email and then proceeded to click on something to go do something else. That's tied to the effectiveness of your calls to action. If you don't have one, obviously you're not effective. Bounces. These are undeliverable. Of course, lower is better, and this is what Rebecca was talking about a little while ago. Somebody might have misspelled their email address on the paper, or you typed it in wrong, and it'll bounce. Yes, it will take care of removing bounces from the list for you. So they're not unavoidable. It happens. Unsubscribe. This is bad. They don't want to hear from you anymore. So ask yourself, did they belong on the list to begin with? A lot of times the answer is no. Did they opt in? Sure they did. Was the content relevant? Could you have used a segment? Are you annoying them with too many emails? We have found with AAF in particular that combining several things into one email instead of sending 3 different ones for 3 different things has actually been very good for us on the unsubscribes. So instead of 3 separate event announcements, we'll roll all those into one with 3 calls to action, bam, bam, bam. They like that better. So don't be annoying. Unsubscribes will happen. Don't lose too much sleep over it. It will happen. People who, as part of their job, may have needed the emails you were getting at one point, they change jobs, they don't need your emails anymore. You know, there's perfectly reasonable reasons for unsubscribes. So just try to minimize them. Don't make it your fault they unsubscribe.
Okay, now I have a question.
Sure.
Say like someone puts a link into spam, does that cause a bounce back?
Your email going into spam does not cause a bounce, no.
So they're still receiving it, you just don't, there's no, it's inactive.
Right. Now, what will get reported in MailChimp is if it got to their inbox and they clicked, this is spam, that will get reported to MailChimp. If you get too many of those, MailChimp's gonna have a conversation. Cool?
Yeah.
All right, we already looked at some reports. If anybody wants to go back, we will. But again, we just sort of already looked through how those work, so I'm just gonna get to my closing arguments.
Argument.
I was watching House of the last of House of Cards last night, and of course they were on trial, so yeah, closing arguments.
First episode?
No, well, I won't say what happened. It was the last episode of the 2nd season. All right, so something we did not cover is automation, and I'll tell you what it is, and you can go look at it. Automation are automatic triggers when something else happens. Let's say somebody first subscribes to your list, and you want a series of 3 or 5 emails to then go to them automatically. Maybe it's like onboarding. Somebody signs up for a class or something at People Inc. You sign them up to this email list, and you want a series of 5 educational emails to go to them. You can do that with automation. We've toyed with the idea of somebody joins AAF as an organization, we then send them 3 or 4 emails talking about what AAF is all about. Another word for that is a drip campaign, but MailChimp calls it automation. So there's a lot of room for things to happen there. Another instance where this is useful are on online stores. Somebody adds a product to a cart, maybe they abandoned that cart. If we can tie MailChimp over to that cart, we can send some automated things back, say, all right, automatically offer them a coupon or something like that. We already have a plug-in on your site, which sort of helps you with that. But e-commerce is a big place where this trigger-based automation happens. Does sort of make sense? Again, go research it if you're interested in it. I won't have enough time to cover it today. You can hire professionals to do some of this stuff for you. Emails can be scheduled. You can write 4 emails today and have them send out over the course of the next 4 weeks. When you get to the end of the campaign, it lets you choose what date, what time do you want this to be sent on. So keep that in mind. Experiment until you find the most effective times of day, subject lines, and frequency. If you keep doing the same thing you always do, what's that phrase? You'll always get what you always got. Don't be no stupid, says Susan. But yeah, experiment, don't keep doing the same thing. The tools are there for you to figure out the most optimal times and ways to do these things, so do it. Don't be annoying. And another thing that I keep saying sort of over and over in a variety of talks, it's way easier to write things once for your website and then reuse that. If you write things for Facebook and then write something for your website and then write something again for email, that's hard. That is so much effort. This is mostly for the newsletter people. If you write it one time for your website, you then have the tools to share that out socially, and then also have your email marketing sort of take care of that for you automatically with the RSS driven stuff. You're duplicating a lot of effort if you don't take this approach. Website is home base. Quit spending all this effort doing it over and over and over and over. That's it. Questions? All right, well, I appreciate it. On that yellow sheet, say you love me.
Surely somebody's got questions.
I do, but I don't have any go up there.
You got a question?
How many of you are currently using email programs and connecting with clients? Most everybody? After today, are you gonna try, or did you get some tips?
Can I ask you a question? I have two websites, Tennessee Driver Training and Virginia Driver Training. We have different laws in each state, so would you recommend that we just have one MailChimp account for this situation? I mean, I know with her situation, it would make sense to have three different.
One MailChimp account, but have an additional field on your sign-up form that says which state are you in. And then you can segment and send to the Tennessee segment or the Virginia segment.
Okay, great, thanks.
It's a good use of segments. Anybody else?
When you sign up through Facebook and it says use sign up form tab, yes or no, what does that mean?
Yes. In the screenshot that I showed you,
Yes.
it was on its own tab.
Okay, so say yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying, okay.
And where does that?
What else would it be if you said no? Where would it go? Okay, well, we'll go with yes then.
See, tab.
So while I have a captive audience, if you will, go to the Virginia Highlands Small Business Incubator Facebook page and like us if you haven't. We keep all of our information, and we actually live stream from that page. Actually, that's not true. Sandy live streams, and then she tags me, and then I'll put it on later. But if you miss a class, you can always go back and watch it at a later time. So,
What is it again?
Virginia Highlands Small Business Incubator, and Virginia is spelled out.
Yes, sir.
If you put the sign up for email on your Facebook, and that shows up on your laptop or your desktop, when that transfers over to the phones, does it lose that sign up sometimes?
Rebecca's looking at it, probably. I don't know.
What's the question?
That's a good question. Does the sign-up form still
Does
show
the
up? on
sign
the
up
phone?
form get lost when it goes to the phone?
I'll tell you in just a second.
I don't think so.
Anybody else while I'm looking at it?
Well, I have a question on that. How do they, so when they click that, they're signing up just to get any information from us? Because we have so many things going on, it could be anything. You have so many different departments, it's not gonna differentiate between any of that.
It depends, like if you look very briefly, it's a magic to pull it up, but I've got email address, first name, last name, those are the defaults. On down this page, we've got the option of adding more information. There is a checkbox field within MailChimp that says, I'm interested in, and you can have them check off what they're interested in receiving.
Okay.
Those are your segments, that you can send
Yeah,
segments.
okay.
I actually do not see the sign-up form on my phone as of right now.
That's, wow, me either. And
So-
it said it didn't.
Yeah, 'cause I thought I put it on my Facebook page, and I checked my phone when we were going through it, and I didn't see it pop in,
Yep.
even under more.
So, good question. No, the email sign-up does not show up on Facebook.
You showed us a master list you had through the AAF, and then there were other lists that you had. Were those subsets of your master list that you created for a specific campaign?
We, before we really got into segments and were smart about that, we had some of these other lists as our interest groups, but no, they're not subsets of the master list, whereas segments are. So, master list is a good thing, to have the segments under there. If you may find certain situations where it just makes more sense to have a separate list altogether. I can't right off the top of my head tell you what it is, but there are places that would be good. For instance,
Can you, with one campaign, can you send it to multiple lists if you have multiple?
not MailChimp, weirdly. You can send to multiple segments, but not multiple lists. You can duplicate the campaign and do it again to another list. Don't know why that is, other places let you do that. Yes?
To go back to that sign up, is there another way of putting that form into your Facebook page someplace else so it would show up with most of the people using their phones these days instead of?
The other way I could think of it is maybe you could periodically make a post with a link to a sign-up form, either on your website or through MailChimp's form builder. Or you could have that URL as part of your about, or something like that.